Okay, let's talk about the parts of a resume. The first one listed is contact information, and here's what's important about that. A lot of you, when you turned in your first business letter, you included an email address and you included a phone number, and I marked those off because they don't go in a mailed business letter. In a resume, everything goes. Every way that you want an employer to contact you goes in this contact information. Make sure it's accurate. Make sure you've spelled things correctly. Make sure even the mailing information is correct. Some jobs have a longer term cycle on them, and you may actually get information in the mail, in snail mail, from a potential employer. So make sure that you have a mail address that works, an email address that works, and at least one phone number where this potential employer could contact you. The next section is career objectives, and I do want to see this on your resume documents. It's very important. That is that one sentence or a couple of sentences at the very beginning that very specifically state what kind of job you are looking for, what kind of career you are aiming for. So we'll focus on that. I do want to see that in your resumes. The third and fourth bullet points are probably the most important and will have the most information. One of those is education. Now, you're not going to list your high school and your junior, you're not going to list all that. You do need to list your university education and any other training or education outside of the university setting particularly that pertains to the specific job you're seeking. All of those things need to go here. So if you list University of Houston, Texas, that is not enough information for me as an employer. I want to know, did you graduate yet? If not, when are you going to graduate? I need those kind of indications. How long did you go there? Maybe if you're seeking a higher degree, maybe you're seeking a part-time job now because you're going into the master's program next fall or in January. You want to list that here. This employer needs to know not only what education you have behind you, but what you're looking at ahead of you as well, because they need to know whether you're going to commit to their work and whether you're seeking of a higher ed degree, for example, works with their goals for you as an employee or their goals for the company. So this is a great place to do that. You want your education to be filled out completely. Work experience is the same way. Now, a lot of you are new to the workplace and probably don't have a lot of job history. Then others of you have quite a lengthy job history already. Whatever you've got, you need to put in the work experience area, and it needs to be clear and succinct, just like in our other technical writing. You don't want to go on, but you want to cover the things that you've done, the experience that you've had, the skills that you've gained, all of those kinds of things, and you want to show it in the work experience section. Now, I get lots of questions about which one of these comes first, and for me it comes down to one thing: which one is more important? And by that I mean which one is more important to you getting this job, and the other one is which one do you have more of. So, for instance, I'm an older woman. I have lots of work history. I have this incredibly long list of work history, but I also have a decent education path. So for the job that I hold at my day job at Custom Air Products, I listed on my resume my work experience went first and my education was at the bottom. However, when I applied for the job at U of H and whenever I worked at the job overseas at Texas A&M, on both of those applications, my education went first and my work history went second, because for those jobs, the fact that I had a terminal degree was more important, at least to get me through the door, than the work experience, so it went first. So think about that whenever you're organizing your content, but I expect to see both of those on your resume. Okay, the next section that's listed in the book is personal data and interests. I have to say, as both an instructor and as one of those people who actually reviews resumes pretty frequently in the field, I'm not a fan. I don't really care that you like soccer. I don't really care that you play flag football on the weekends. I'm not really that interested in the fact that you really like to sew on the weekends. It's just not a huge part of me deciding whether you're the right person for the job. So I'm not a huge fan of that, and I would say that is pretty darn optional. The next one as well, they talk about how to put references in a resume properly, and about that silly statement that says references available upon request. As an instructor and in the field, whenever I see applications or resumes, I hate those two statements. First of all, I know that if you've applied for the job and I think you're qualified, I'm going to call you and ask for references, and I expect you to send me a list that I can check. You don't need to tell me that. You do not need to waste space on this one page you're going to give me to say that you're going to send me references. I know that. So in my professional opinion, don't even put this. As an employer, I am going to expect that you can provide references. You do not need to specifically state it. In my opinion, leave the references section off. The final point that's covered is something called portfolios, and this is an organized, formatted demonstration of your work skills. If you're seeking a job in a career that requires some kind of demonstration of your past examples of your work, demonstration of your skills that can be put down on paper or put in electronic format, then a portfolio is a good thing for you. So if you're trying for a job as a web designer, you might want to use one of these. If you're a game designer, you might want to use these. Any kind of graphic design, a portfolio would be a great place for you to showcase your work. However, if you're applying for a job in supply chain, a portfolio is kind of a waste. That is not where you're going to demonstrate your skills. So a portfolio is not important for that. Now, I'm not asking for a portfolio in this exercise. We're just specifically focusing on the resume, but I did want you to know that if you make a reference to a portfolio, if you have one already built, or if you want to spend the time to create one, feel free. Think about whether the job that you're applying for would benefit from a portfolio before you decide whether to use an element like that. So portfolios, not required. One more little discussion before we move on, and that is about form and style. Now, I have another video that is really more specific to that, but I just wanted to hit the high points here. First of all, simple is fine. Actually, simple is great. Don't make it so simple that there are no bullet points, no headings, no anything, but typing it straight into Word and then providing some bold, some alignment, a few indicators to separate items is perfectly fine. Simple and straightforward is good. Keep it clean, make it attractive, make it look good on the page, and keep it consistent. And by that I typically mean colors, fonts, sizes, all of those kind of things. So simple is great. If you want to go fancy or stylized, that's fine as well. But don't overshoot your own skill set. Focus on your content more than your presentation. If you want to show off a little, I always do a bit of a stylized one myself because I can get around really well in Word or in even some other programs that I use for this, InDesign, Photoshop, some of those kind of things. So I can do fancy or stylized because that's within my skill set. And especially if I'm looking for a job where I want to show off that skill set, I can go with that. But I'm not going to choose a fancy or a detailed format if I have trouble getting around in Word, for instance. Make sure you know what you're doing before you go down that path because you don't want to waste your time. The same thing goes for templates. I often use templates, but I find them very, very problematic. They're really helpful when they're laid out exactly like I want to use them. But if I need to add a category that they didn't use, or if I need to change alignment or something like that, templates can really, really make it difficult. So if you get around in Word really well, or you have a resource, you know somebody who can help you out with this, I want you to be careful with the templates, because I spend a lot of time each semester trying to help people who have tried to use a pretty template and failed at it, to help them figure out how to correct things. So if you're trying to use a template and it becomes messier and overwhelming, you lose spots, and I'll go back to a simple style. Simple is good.